So there's a new absurd method that higher end players are using to get some of the most ridiculously well-rolled weapons you've ever seen in Diablo 4. And while this is something that would be more focused once you're pretty late into the endgame, this actually isn't that hard to pull off. And besides the items you actually need, the investment to get these well-rolled items actually isn't that crazy in terms of materials. So let's just go take a look at the leaderboards, because I know a good chunk of the top leaderboard players for like most of the classes have something like this now. But if you go on the leaderboard and just look at some of the top players and you check some of their weapons, you'll notice something pretty ridiculous. First off, you'll notice that some of them have weapons that wouldn't be crazy well-rolled weapons. This is literally the top druid player on the leaderboards, and he only has a 2 GA two-handed weapon. The stats are kind of normally what people would be rolling, but he doesn't even have a greater affix on his crit strike damage multiplier. So normally you would be like, this weapon isn't that crazy, until you look at the one specific roll, which is gem strength in this item at a 339.5% roll, meaning both of his gems, which he has the highest tier of gems, are giving 141% multi damage for each one of the gems. Now normally the highest tier of gems, which are really grindy to get, are 32%. He is getting 282% lightning damage multi just from the gems in this two-handed weapon, which is probably more damage multi than even like a top tier rolled weapon can normally get without gem strength as a roll on it. And there's actually a method to kind of focus on getting this specific gem strength roll that is pretty cheap in the grand scheme of things. So now we're at the cube, so we can take a look at how to actually do this and the method people are using to get rolls like that. And also keep in mind, as I mentioned, that weapon isn't that crazy of a roll in general outside of the gem strength roll. Now this can be done with uniques or legendaries. Uniques, you'll need a bit better rolls in general because you can't modify the uniques in any ways usually, but on legendary items, you can essentially get any roll you want, and you can just try to transfigure it, because the only thing this is going to cost is whatever weapon you want, whether it be a unique weapon or just random legendary weapons. It's just going to cost that item, and then it's going to cost one or overall a couple volatile primordial dust. These aren't super rare. If you have any of the tributes of the Haradrim that you can go run in the Undercity, these are one of the bargains you can do in there, so you can get probably like a dozen plus of these in one of those runs. I have 900 here. This is not like a super rare material. It's just a material that you transfigure items with. That's all it's going to cost. And what you're going to do is, before you do anything to that weapon, you are going to transfigure it, which is the exact opposite of what you usually should be doing. So this is mainly for weapons that aren't crazy well rolled. If you have like a 3 or 4 GA weapon with crazy good rolls, don't do this with that. That I would recommend doing everything before you transfigure, just because those are so well rolled. But other items that aren't super well rolled but are well rolled enough to maybe be usable, you transfigure first, because what you are actually looking for is to get that gem strength roll, but then also get the rare chance that when you transfigure an item, it doesn't become unmodifiable. If you don't know, there's a very rare chance that anytime you transfigure an item, it just won't make it unmodifiable, so you can transfigure it again, or you can go do other modifications to the item before transfiguring again. I'm sure some of you have seen on Reddit where people are posting weapons that they've transfigured like 4 times on it. It's just a chance to not make the item unmodifiable. So you take whatever weapon you're looking for and you just transfigure it and you see what you get. Now this one we just got did not get the unmodifiable tag on it. It got indestructible, so it's basically useless. But since this did not get the unmodifiable tag on it, we can just transfigure it again. Now this time it got all stats and it's unmodifiable, so this isn't a weapon we'll be using. What you're actually looking for is that first transfigure like we just got here. Instead of it being indestructible, you would want gem strength. Now if you get a weapon and you transfigure it and you get gem strength as that transfigure and the weapon is still modifiable, you have a god tier weapon there. Because after you get that, then you're going to go take the weapon through all of the other things you would normally do to gear. So you're going to temper it, you're going to masterwork it, you're going to do all of that. But when you masterwork, you're going to make sure you hit the greater affix, so the final upgrade, on that gem strength. That's how you get crazy high gem strength rolls. So here's an offhand, and you can do this with one-handers and offhands as well. Those are still weapons. And here I got unmodifiable and it just GA'd, so we're not going to be using that. And you just do this with all of your weapons because you're doing this with weapons that have not been modified in any way. So unless you get the roll you're looking for, you just throw it away. And again, all this is going to cost is one volatile primordial dust and whatever weapon you're actually trying to do it on. This one got a GA, unmodifiable, you just throw it away and you just go through and do this on any weapons you can actually get your hand on, because that's the only roll you're actually looking for. You're only looking for that specific gem strength and then to also get it unmodifiable, which again is quite rare. But if you could just do it with pretty much any weapon, if it's a legendary, it could pretty much be any weapon. If you're doing it with uniques, you'll need at least slightly well-rolled weapons, but you just go through, do this. It's quite easy to do, and you're just getting chances upon chances to get the rolls you're actually looking for. Now, I didn't get any here, but these were a bunch of not necessarily like super well-rolled weapons. If I wasn't doing this method, almost none of these would be weapons I would actually be keeping. I would have scrapped them all. But with this method, if I got that gem strength roll and the item was still modifiable, that would legitimately be turned into a weapon that I would absolutely be using, because the strength increase is just ungodly when you get those two combinations. And it's also funny, in the middle of recording this video, I decided to go and check if pretty much all of the top players for all of the classes have these, and I totally forgot the barbarians just get 4 weapons. And checking on a bunch of the top barbarians, which like every barbarian could do 150s now, legitimately they just have weapon upon weapon with these gem strength rolls. A 250 gem strength roll here, a 333 gem strength roll here. They don't have it on this weapon, so they can still get a pretty big upgrade here, and another 108% gem strength roll. So the multipliers on most classes are kind of crazy, but on a barbarian it's just multiplied, which this is something that they're going to have to fix going into the future, specifically for barbarians. But if you go and look at pretty much any of the other class leaderboards, if you go check pretty much any of these, they are probably going to have one, or if they use multiple weapons with gem strength rolls. And actually with this new method, most of the classes, or I think half of the classes now, actually have 150 runs on the leaderboard. And I think a good chunk of that is actually due to being able to get these gem strength rolls on your weapons. So this is absolutely absurd and probably one of the craziest methods if you're still looking for power increases later into the end game. And as I was mentioning, this is actually much harder to do with builds that are using unique weapons. Like the build I'm currently using on my druid, my main hand is a unique weapon, so I have to specifically go farm a boss and try to get somewhat passable rolls to be able to even start to do this. If you're doing this with legendary weapons, basically all you need is a weapon with like one good greater affix on it, not even necessarily like one crazy good one. A lot of the weapons I'm seeing are basically people just looking for any weapon with a greater affix on weapon damage or better, maybe weapon damage or critical strike damage or some other multi. Just have like one greater affix on the weapon, and then you do the method we went over. And also, if you're looking for a way to do this, one of the most efficient ways you could possibly do it, you're just going to be doing obol runs in nightmare dungeons. You essentially just do an escalation dungeon setup, which I'll probably do in a future video, but you just run escalation nightmare sigils and you choose every obol affix you can get. And in an escalation dungeon, one dungeon with the obol affix where you loot the chest and you get obols, you can legitimately get tens of thousands of obols, and you just go gamble them on weapons. And 2,500 obols, which is the cap, so that's when you have to go back and actually start gambling. One inventory of gambling has a pretty good chance to give you at least one weapon to go use on this method. So it's not really going to take a ridiculous amount of time to build up a lot of these weapons to use this method on. And realistically, when you're doing it like this, it's not going to take a ton of time to get one of these rolls. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.